just say hello to everyone. So good morning, good afternoon, depending where you all are. My name is Ellen Rathje, and I'm the principal investigator for the DesignSafe Cyber Infrastructure project. I'm a professor here at the University of Texas with expertise in geotechnical engineering, focusing in on the earthquake engineering side of natural hazards. And I want to welcome you today to our first training webinar for the DesignSafe Cyber Infrastructure. I'll be taking you through just the first few slides here about DesignSafe, but Charlie Day, who you can see in the training room there at the Texas Advanced Computing Center, he'll take you through most of it, most of the rest of the way, some slides, some hands-on live demos. And for those of you who have your own DesignSafe account, you can try and follow along. This is really just the first of our training webinars. It's going to be focused on a very broad overview of the capabilities that are available. And we'll be following up with monthly training webinars, getting a little bit more in depth in terms of the capabilities and the details of what we can do. So I'm sure at the end, Charlie will promote the fact that in October and November, we will have some additional training webinars and talk about a little bit about those topics. So with that, why don't we get started? So DesignSafe is a cyber infrastructure component for the natural hazards engineering research infrastructure. And when we think about the cyber infrastructure that we're developing under DesignSafe, we have a pretty broad vision in what we hope you as researchers will be able to do. We're trying to develop a cyber infrastructure that's not just a static place to store data at the end of the project, but is actually part of your research process, part of the research discovery. And you'll see that we're doing that by bringing the tools and the data that you need to do your work together in the cloud. So we have cloud-based tools that will support data analysis, data visualization, integration of these data types, all within the web portal. And this really is the key to unlocking the power of big data, because if you've got these large data sets, diverse data sets that are difficult to move around, if you can bring them together in the cloud with your analysis tools, we really can start doing more than we could do otherwise. Oh, can you go back, Charlie? Thanks. So beyond just having these tools, we also want you to think about DesignSafe as a mechanism that will support your research workflow end to end. So from when you're trying to the beginning of your research project, when you're thinking about what you're going to do, say designing an experiment, interacting with the experimental facilities, we're there to support you all the way to the end when you're publishing your data set. So I'm just going to encourage you to think not only about DesignSafe as a data repository, but really providing a lot more. Okay, next slide, Charlie. So just to give you an idea of some thoughts that we put together with respect to how one might integrate data and use the DesignSafe, you can see here a schematic that illustrates how these data can be integrated. So perhaps you're doing some simulation research and you are going to run your model, perhaps using the HPC resources that we have made available. There's output from that data. All the documentation for running that simulation is provided, and all that information is archived in the data depot, which is our data repository. Similarly, you can have experimental research, which again, you've got data. It's a different type of data, has different types of metadata, and that can also be stored within the data depot. And finally, you're probably aware that NERI includes a rapid reconnaissance portal, or rapid reconnaissance facility, and the reconnaissance data will also be housed in the data depot using an interface that we're still just starting to develop with the rapid team. We're calling it the reconnaissance integration portal, and again, that data is will be stored in the data depot. The real interesting stuff and the research happens in the discovery workspace, which is another part of the design safe cyber infrastructure that Charlie will show you. And that's where the data analysis tools, visualization tools are located. And so the data that's available in the data depot can be worked on in the discovery workspace with these tools. Your results can then be saved back into the data depot such that you can curate and publish your data sets, your data analysis. You can even create a new data analysis tool and publish that as well. So you can imagine, for instance, having simulation data, trying to validate it against experimental data, having those two data sets in the data depot, and in the discovery workspace is where you make those comparisons. And so that's kind of the big vision of what we hope that will allow you to do over the next few years using DesignSafe. So I'm going to transition it now over to Charlie, and he'll take you through some of the details on how to get started and what's available. So Charlie, take it away.
Great. Hey, thank you very much, Ellen. So my name is Charlie. I am the training lead here at TAC for DesignSafe. I'm also an educator and one of the staff researchers. So what the plan is today is we're going to do a walkthrough on DesignSafe. We're going to show you how to do an account setup. I'm sure most of you already done that. We're going to bring you up to date with some of the terminology. We'll look at the cloud storage integration, how to move that into DesignSafe, specifically box.com right now. Then we're going to go through into designsafe.org and do an overview of what the site looks like. We will look at the different sections of DesignSafe. There's a community section, facility section, the learning center, and the research workbench. And that's what we're going to concentrate on in the hands-on demo, where we'll look at the data depot, the discovery workspace. We will demonstrate launching MATLAB, and we'll demonstrate launching Jupyter. So that is what our plan is. So first off, for those of you who have not registered or created an account yet, this is basically the process of going through there. On the right-hand corner of the screen, there's a login register button. When you click on the register button, it'll take you to another screen that says register an account. Fill in the information, and this will then allow you to create a TAC account. So we will also call this kind of your TAC credential sometimes. When you log in, you'll be clicking in on the login button. There's a big blue button that says TAC. If you click on that, type in the credentials that you created, and you'll be able to log into your account. Also, when you first log in, you'll come up to a Manage Profile page. On that Manage Profile page is where you can now set up your third-party or cloud services to hook up your, to connect to your data or to be able to upload data. There is a button called Third-Party Apps. If you click on that, it will bring you to a Manage Applications page. If you click on the Manage App Settings, it'll bring you to the box.com integration. Currently, box.com is the only one we're offering hookups to, but we will be opening that up to Dropbox and opening that up to Google Drive as well. So when you come up to Box, you type in your Box account number, your account ID, type in your password, and authorize it, and you will link up to Box. All right, so the other sections of DesignSafe, there is the NERI community section. This is essentially trying to bring that community, the NERI community together, where we'll show you some of the news features going on, the web conferencing services, probably some career opportunities and NERI award opportunities throughout the site, and some descriptions of the cyber infrastructure. There is also a virtual communities of practice. This is an area of the page which is designed to break out the different domain sciences and have basically a conversation site for them, where they can share files among each other, they can share links among each other, and bring news to the different practices that are being hosted here on DesignSafe. There's also the NERI facilities page, and as Ellen said, we have some experimental facilities. This is where those experimental facilities, how you can access their different sites and their different forms. There's also the Computational Simulation Center, the SIM Center, and there's also the Network Coordination Office. You can access their information from this section. And then finally, there's the Learning Center. The Learning Center is where the training resources are being held. These are quick little videotapes or quick little YouTube video links that show you how to use the site. There's also some documentation on how to use the site. In the future, these slides will be posted there as well, and this webinar will be posted there as well. There's also an area for student engagement. So one of the highlights of DesignSafe is we're trying to reach out to the community, reach out to the students, reach out to K through 12 and college students, and this is a place where we can post that kind of information to reach out to those students. All right, and of course, the main part of this is the research workbench that we're going to be focusing on today. All right, the research workbench, I'm going to guide you through all the pages, and then we'll jump in and do some hands-on experiment or hands-on labs with this. But for now, I want you guys to get familiar with what the different pages are, what the different interaction buttons are, and where things are located at. So first off with the workbench. So the workbench is divided into two sections. We have the data depot and we have the discovery workspace. The data depot has, as Ellen had said, this is a place where we're going to be hosting and holding your data. Discovering new data, publishing your data, where you can share it, where you can upload it. You don't necessarily have to share it. You can keep this, the information private to yourself until you're at a stage where you do want to share it, and you do want to collaborate. And then, of course, this is where you can also then publish your data out. The data depot is essentially a multi-purpose data repository. We want you to load all the data that you need to the data depot in whatever format you require. There is no hard format on this is exactly how it has to be. This is open to yourself. We want you to be able to take full advantage of the data depot and load your data here and use it on the cloud. Data depot has two sections of it. There's the public data and then there's the My Data. The public data essentially is just for data that's been publicly available in the data depot, where you can do searches, you can round down your searches on any criteria that is listed. The strong point, of course, is the My Data that we talked about. Like I said, this is your repository. It's a place for all of your data. This is where you would take up your folders, create your experiments, create your projects, any scripts that you require to run on any of the apps. This is where you would essentially host those. And you could upload existing scripts. You can save your scripts here. You can share them out. And we'll go in some hands-on detail here in a little bit. So this is essentially what it looks like. It comes up with essentially a file browser. In the file browser, there is a list of what data you have created, what data is shared with you, a link to the public data, and then a link to your box.com integration. And from here, you can click on the actions and you can share it with other people. You can view the metadata. You can navigate yourself through any folders and share any parts that you require, that you need to share. The other place of the research workbench is the discovery workspace. This is essentially the place where you will be doing your research at. The discovery workspace allows users to perform their simulation, to run simulation code, to analyze their data, there's a lot of open source code available on there already. There's the OpenSeas, there's AdCert, there's OpenFOAM, and there's some commercially available software as well, like MATLAB. And there's also the Jupyter Notebook. The Jupyter Notebook allows you to write your own code, do your own analysis, and be able to create presentations. And we will get some hands-on there. So the discovery workspace contains what we call our application tray. The application bar. This bar has all the current publicly available applications on there. There's also going to be a feature where you can create private applications, which are just available to yourself. And these public applications each one of these have documentation links to it. They're clearly labeled steps on how to launch the application and exactly what each application does. So, as I mentioned before, DesignSafe has MATLAB on it, which is one of the applications on the application bar. If you click MATLAB, it'll go through a list of things that are required to launch it. And MATLAB actually launches in what we call a VNC session. It's an interactive VNC session that launches onto a different tab. Clicking on that will essentially come across, once you got all the information set up and you click run, it'll essentially submit the job to the queue, as you can see here in this little screen. And they'll essentially stage the job, and it'll go through some various other categories until finally the job runs. When the job's ready to run, you're going to see a little screen that says your interactive session has started. Then all you do is click connect, and it brings you up into MATLAB, where you can then load your scripts and run your MATLAB as if it's on your local machine. But this runs in what we call, like I said, a VNC. It's a virtual session on a tab in and of itself. And when you're done with it, you just close that tab out and it exits the session. I also mentioned Jupyter Notebooks are available. The best way to describe what a Jupyter Notebook is so my father used to work, when he was getting his PhD, he used to work in a wind tunnel lab. And so he used to run a lot of experiments. And for these experiments, he had to keep a notebook. And in that notebook, he had all the, what the experiment number was, all the parameters that they're using on the wind tunnel, exactly what tools they use to set up the experiment, and what shape is currently sitting inside the wind tunnel, and how long the experiment ran, and all the notes that essentially he would require that if he gave it to somebody else, they would be able to take that data and replicate his experiment. The same thing is true now in the computer science field with Jupyter. This is a place where we want you to create your code, write your code, document your code, put everything inside there, just so you can hand it to somebody else and they can be able to replicate all the steps you've done. It's also a great place to create, to essentially create a presentation of your code where everything is in detailed and listed, and we'll go through some demos on how Jupyter is set up. All right, with that in mind, and Jupyter goes through its own little launching page, just like MATLAB has. When you click on Jupyter, it's going to come up with a bar that says launch. If you click the launch bar, it comes up to another window under Jupyter. It says My Server. By clicking on the My Server button, you essentially launch into Jupyter, and it comes up once again to a file explorer. And the file explorer inside of it has your My Data file. That is essentially where you will be creating your notebooks and such. So that is where you want to go to or navigate to. All right. Now that we have some of the preliminaries out of the way, you guys have an idea of what it is you're going to be seeing when we actually get onto Jupyter or get on DesignSafe. We're going to go ahead and launch DesignSafe now, and then we'll come back to our slides. So I am going to share a different screen now. And I need going to share my web browser. And I'm going to go to DesignSafe-CI.org. And as you've already seen, this is basically how everything's broken up. On the right-hand side, actually I'm already logged in here, but if you're already logged in, you'll have a little welcome screen and your My Account. If you click on the My Account, that's what takes you to the Manage Profile. If you need to log in, go ahead and click Log In. That'll take you in there. Now, the first thing I want to show you is where the third-party apps are located at, so you can then integrate in with Box.com. The third-party apps are right here on the left-hand side in the bottom. It says Third-Party Apps. Clicking on that will show you what is currently connected. So I'm currently connected to Box.com. If I clicked on my Manage App Settings, it will tell you that my Box.com is enabled. If at any time you wish to disconnect from your Box.com, just click Disconnect. At any other time, you can reconnect. Box.com is really nice, as are some of the other Dropboxes, because it allows you to synchronize files from your desktop to Box.com, and then you'll be able to take those files and bring those into DesignSafe. To return back to the DesignSafe menu, just click on the logo at any time. All right, so most of the hands-on session is going to be wrapped around how we use the research workbench. So that is where we're going to go. The first place in the research workbench is we can get it through the menu, or we can get it through the main screen, is we're going to go to the data depot. So click on the data depot and bring that up. Now, like I mentioned, your data depot is essentially a file explorer. These are all the current files that I have loaded inside of my data. There's also a shared with me section. If you click on that, you'll see what files people have shared with you. So here's a list of all the files and all the users that have shared files with me. You can also go to the public data from this section by clicking on public data. Now this is all available public data that is searchable. So if I wanted to search on a particular person, I could search on a PI. I can search for Ellen. I mistyped her name, didn't I? I'm so sorry, Ellen. Actually, this is due by her last name. And so here's everything that Ellen is involved in. So we can see all the different files. And since these are publicly available, I can click on any of these files, open them up, and start looking through particular information that I'm searching for. We can look at some documentation. We can look at some of the drawings. We have all the information here, the setup on different experiments. We can view the metadata. So let me go back here, navigate back to the main project. And let's look at the metadata. Here's the metadata for that. Here's the title of the project, the name, all the PIs involved, the organization, a little description of it, the sponsors, and these do link back. The publications that came out of this, then the start date, end date. There's also all the experiments, so you can see what the experiments were run, what the descriptions of each experiment is. We can see the DOI link to it as well, the equipment that was used, and of course other files. Clicking on the file, of course, brings you back into the file explorer and shows you exactly which files are in there. You can also preview information too. For example, here's an image. Clicking on the image or on actions automatically brings us a preview of that image. Close this out.
Hey, Charlie, this is Ellen. Just to make sure everyone's aware, the public data is all of the NICE data that it had been available in the NICE Hub. And it's still available in the NICE Hub, but is also available here.
Thank you, Ellen. Yeah, so all the NICE Hub, the previous data that was available on NICE Hub has been imported into DesignSafe. All right. The other thing, of course, we can do, and the main part of what DesignSafe is all about, is being able to share information with one another. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to upload some data, and I am now going to share my whole screen. All right, so I'm now sharing my desktop with you. So what we want to do is we want to be able to load some data into my data, because that's the entire point of this, is being able to collaborate, being able to bring stuff into the cloud, being able to do your work on the cloud. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to experiment a little bit around here, and I'm just going to take a simple text document. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a text editor. And I'm going to put some text on here. So I'll say, this is some sample data. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a text file. We're going to save it on our machine. We're going to open up my data, which is already here, and we're going to upload that file from our local machine to DesignSafe. So this is my sample. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to go and save this onto, call it sample file, and save, and close this out. All right, so now I have a sample data file sitting on my machine that I wish to upload to DesignSafe. So the easiest way to do that, you click New, and I'm going to say New File Upload. Now, mind you, there's also File Upload. There's also Folder Upload that allows you to import an entire folder in. I'm just going to import that one file. So File Upload. Now, there's multiple ways we can do this. I can click on Choose File and be able to choose the files I wish to upload. I can also navigate to my file. Find it right here. And I can drag it onto the screen that I wish to upload. I'm going to go and drag that in there. And you see, there's my sample file that I had. Tells me how big it is. And as soon as I'm ready and I have all the files, I can do multiple files if required. As soon as we're set, we click Begin Upload. And our file will start uploading. Mind you, the way that DesignSafe is set up, everything is queue-based. So this actually goes into a queue. So as soon as the queue is ready and the upload has been set, it will inform you that your file is ready to be ready to be accessed. And you'll get a notification as soon as the file is set up. So right now, it's sitting in the queue and it's waiting for it to be uploaded. And I should be getting a notification here real soon. Oh, actually, it's already been uploaded here. You'll get a little notification that pops up and says as soon as things are set. So here's my file that I uploaded. If I wish to share this with somebody, I can click here for Actions. There's no preview available for this type. I chose a text file. I can view the metadata. I can add some metadata in here. I can say sample. Data, rich text, and so on and so forth. And then I can go ahead and click Save, and then all the metadata is saved in there as well. Share that once again. To share that file, I'm going to go and click here, click on the share icon, and I can start typing users that I wish to share this with. I have a couple sample accounts. As you type, it will start doing searches. So I have to share with one of my other accounts. And we are allowed to give different different credentials on that save. If you want to do, or different permissions. We can do read only, we can do read write, we can do all, and then we can also revoke existing. So if I were to share this with Ellen and say read only, and I'm going to save my share settings. Once again, this will get into a queue. So there's one of the boxes saying, hey, it's initialized the file sharing process and for asking you to wait. And then we get another notification that the share has been finished. Once the share has been finished, Ellen will be able to go into her DesignSafe and see that this file has been shared with her. At any time, if you wish to revoke the share, just once again, click on the share. See who's been set up. I can update her settings. I can give her read write. If I wish to revoke the permission, I could just click none and save my share settings, and it'll revoke the permissions from her. Once again, it won't be an immediate, the permissions won't be immediate. It'll initialize a process like we see here, and then it'll say, okay, process has been complete, and now the file permissions have been changed. So now when integrating with your box.com, if you wish to click on box, anything you have here, you will need to bring into your My Data. So here's my box.com information. If I were to click on it, I can do previews. So here's my preview of this particular file, just a post-process file. I can copy it into my data, and then I could share it out with other people. So I can copy, just by dragging and dropping, I should be able to copy that. I can also select where I want to I can click copy, where I want it to go. So we select what sort, we select the destination. My destination is going to be my data. And I'm going to click on my test folder. So I'm going to select this folder. Now, once again, this is a process, so it's not immediately available. First thing we see is, all right, the download is started. So it's downloading from box.com to DesignSafe. Once it's complete, we say the download's been ended and the copy has been complete. And if I go back into my data here and go into my test folder, I can see that that post-process file, the input file, has been successfully copied in. It should be noted that this file is only copied into my data. It is not synchronized. So any changes that you make to your box.com file, you would have to copy those into DesignSafe once again. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is the workspace, the Discovery workspace. So we're going to click on the Discovery workspace. Now, like we saw in the slides, the Discovery workspace has an application tool. This application tool essentially is where all the publicly available applications are. We have AdCirc, we have OpenFOAM, OpenSees Express, OpenSees. This is a parallel programming, but it's a simple parallel version. There's also the MP version, which is the, actually I don't see that right now, the other OpenSees version, which allows you to do multi-code in a parallel environment. If you ever get confused on what's what, you just click on it and it will tell you that exactly what this particular software is for. This is OpenSees software framework for simulating seismic response of structural and geotechnical systems. It also tells you which version. This is the single parallel interpreter application. If you need to click on the documentation for it, we have a link to opensees.berkeley.edu with their documentation in. All the files that are set up are designed to basically guide you through. This form is essentially how the application is ran. OpenSees requires an input directory. So we can either click select and select which import directory we'd like, or we can just drag and drop our input directory. So once again, I'm just going to go ahead and click on my test. Or if I wanted to, I can click and drag. Or we already have a good sample set up, so we can just copy and paste. I'm so sorry, that disappeared on me. Let's try that again. All right, so we have some pre-made samples set up already, so I'm going to copy and paste the sample into the text box. And we're going to move that into here, so I'm going to go and click paste. We have a tickle script set up. So a tickle script, basically you go in there and set all your settings. And we have a sample tickle script for that sample file. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that in as well. And then finally, it needs a maximum job runtime. So essentially you need to estimate how long you believe this job is going to take and then add a little bit of buffer to that. So I'm going to go ahead and put in an hour. Finally, we give it a name. I'm going to say this is demoing OpenSees. We can then select a archive location. So once the program is done running, it's going to create some sort of data, and that's going to go into an archive. I'm just going to go ahead and use the standard archive location. This is the default. And now I'm going to go ahead and click Run. And the job will be submitted. And then we'll start getting notifications on how the job's running. So we'll see that now the job is pending. Soon it'll be staged. Then it will start running, and then it will be finished, and we'll get a good job status, a good notification on where it's currently running. So now it's been staged, and soon it'll say running and complete. Now there's also OpenSees Express. I should say the difference. OpenSees SP runs on our supercomputer Stampede. OpenSees Express is running on a virtual machine. So if you don't need something as beefy as Stampede sitting on the back, just go ahead and run OpenSees Express for smaller jobs. There's also, of course, OpenFOAM. Each one of these has a listing of how what the job does, and all the forms are very similar to one another, except And we all have sample locations for each. Each one of these allows you to drag and drop from your data browser or from the My Data Depot browser into the existing form. And my job's incomplete, and now it's archiving. The next thing I want to look at is MATLAB. Now, MATLAB does run on our supercomputer as well. And for the sake of time, I actually made a pre-made run of it so you can see what it kind of looks like. So I'm going to go and run that right now. If you do wish to use MATLAB on DesignSafe, you do require a license. And at the bottom of the MATLAB, you will see, let me bring MATLAB up here, kind of say how it's ran. You'll see that there is a location for a ticket. If you have not been set up yet, it'll ask you to enter your ticket in, put in your ticket, put in the required information. If you are with an academic environment, then we will be able to import your MATLAB license in, and you'll be able to run it. But you need to fill out a ticket and put in the required information. All right, so with that, I'm going to show you a quick demo on how MATLAB runs. And we're going to go ahead and run this real quick. So first thing we do is we click on MATLAB. And what comes across, we need to select a working directory. So we can either drag and drop that in, and I'm going to drag and drop my test directory in. We give it a maximum job runtime. Once again, I'm going to give it an hour, how long we'll need this. And I'm going to give it a name. So I'm just going to call it demo. And I'm going to select the default archive location, and I'm going to go ahead and click run. And the job's going to get submitted, just like we've seen with the OpenSeas job. And there will be a status involved in there. And it's going to go ahead and process all my input files. And we're going to skip ahead here a little bit. And once the thing is ready, it will launch a VNC session, and it's going to come across this screen where it says your interactive session has started. And we're going to go ahead and click connect. This starts up the VNC, and it launches MATLAB. And once you're in MATLAB, you can start writing your scripts. You can open up your data. And you can launch your scripts as well. So it's very important that you select the correct location you want MATLAB to run, because that is the directory that MATLAB is going to default to. So I selected the test directory, so this is inside of here. Here's a little bit of a surface graph that I put through. You just click it, open it up, and I click run, and it goes ahead and runs it for me. Now, as soon as we're done with this, when we're ready to exit MATLAB, there's a little window that says exit this window to kill your VNC session. You open that up, you close out the window, it comes up with a saying there's no VNC. You can then close out that window, and then you can close out that graph, and you're back into DesignSafe. All right. All right, the next thing that we want to look at as well is we want to launch Jupyter. Now, as I said, Jupyter Notebooks are a very handy way of sharing your information, sharing data, doing some data analysis, doing some graphics, and be able to launch through. All right, so if you wish to launch Jupyter, you click on Jupyter, and once again, for time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and launch it, and you guys can just check it out from home. And when you're ready to launch it yourself and ready to play with it, this is the steps you're going to go through. All right, so I'm going to select Jupyter off of the application bar. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click launch. Now, Jupyter requires you, this is sitting on a different server, so it does require you to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and click login. And it brings me back to my login for my TAC credentials. Like I said, the TAC credentials are what your DesignSafe credentials are. It's the account that you created just a little bit ago. So I'm going to go and log in. And we come up to the little screen that says Start My Server. Now, these are screens that we've seen before on the slide, so this shouldn't be new to you. We're going to click Start My Server. And this will go ahead and launch the Jupyter Notebook for me. And it'll launch the Jupyter Notebook inside of my data. So this is what it currently looks like. Now, all of your information is sitting on my data, and that is what essentially is shared with the Jupyter Notebook. So to get there, you click on My Data. And we come across another file browser. There's some existing notebooks that I have. The thing we'll be doing, you click New, and click New, and then we have these types of notebooks available. We have Bash, Python 2, Python 3, or R. I'm going to give you just a quick demo on how to use the Jupyter Notebook with just a simple hello world. So the way Jupyter Notebooks are set up is we have different types of cells. And essentially you use these cells to either write code in, to view output in, or to just write some notes or some instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and select Markdown. Now this is now just free text. I can type whatever I like. Say this is a simple hello world program in Python. All right. I'm going to add another cell below it. Now this is a programming cell. I'm going to put some code in here, and I could just say print hello world. And I can just click run, and it says hello world. So that's a quick little easy example. I can show you guys some other examples that we have. One of the other examples I have is, here is one of the classes we teach here is scientific and technical computing. And in that class, we teach you some algorithms. One of the algorithms that we teach is the Jacobi algorithm to solve linear algebra, AX equals B. This is something I set up for my students just to show them what the code looks like in Python. So here I have what we're trying to do. Here's another cell giving you what the general algorithm is. And then here is the actual code. To run the code, I could just click on display, and it goes through, will run through this and give me an output window. Should give me an output window. And there's my output window. Here's all the different iterations of X. And then here's what the array that, or the vector, I'm sorry, the matrix I'm solving for. Here's what my B vector is, and here's what the X vector solution is. So it's very handy as a tutorial, it's very handy for publishing data, and it's very handy for collaborating with other people to do some work. And once again, it sits in your My Data, so you have access to all the data you've loaded. You can then take the data that this creates and copy that out to other people and share it. And just for another notebook, I'll open up another notebook here. We have an introduction to R notebook as well. And so this goes through how to code in R, and it gives you a couple little lesson plans. All right. Now let's go back to our DesignSafe. So we've covered everything that is basically the heart and meat of what DesignSafe is about, which is collaborating data, running your code, doing your analysis, doing some visualization, and then be able to share any information with other users in the community. All right, let's go back to our slides here then. All right, so this essentially gives us a total run through. If you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute your microphones, or best would be to send email to us, or you can type some text messages, or I'm sorry, there is a chat available inside of DesignSafe, or inside of Zoom, and you can type some questions in. I want to give some special thanks to Ellen and Tim Cockrell, Jamie Paget, Dan Stanzione, Steve Mock, Matt Hanlon, Josue, Manuel, and Matt Stelmazik, and Hedda, and Junie. These guys have been essential in getting DesignSafe off the ground and running and helping me create some of these tutorials. If you do have questions, please email us at training@designsafeci.org, or you can fill out a help ticket. I want to also inform you that we have 2 other training webinars coming up. One of the first webinar is going to be in late October, or the next webinar is in late October. We're going to be covering the Jupyter Notebook, Python, and how to integrate that into your scientific workflow. And then in early November, there will be another webinar. This one will be Jupyter R and doing some easy data analysis and easy contour plotting. If there are any questions, feel free to contact us and we'll be happy to oblige. Thank you very much. And we'll, I guess, open it up for some questions.
Hey, Charlie, can I just add a few more comments there at the end?
Of course.
So Charlie did a great job showing you what's available today. Remember, this is, as my colleagues like to remind me, this is a 5-year project, and we're continuously not only improving what's available, but adding new capabilities. And so one thing that will be coming on shortly will be a project space within the My Data area. You'll have My Projects, and that's where you can, it'll allow you to more easily collaborate with a group. And therefore, you can create a project, add your collaborators, and then everybody has access to the files that are within the project. And then when you want to publish, you can pick the files that you have within the project and group them together into a data set that is then published with a DOI. And so that'll be coming shortly, and so that'll be very exciting. I think that's probably one of the most important features that'll be coming up, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So I see lots of questions in the chat. We've been answering them as we've been able during the call here. You can see a lot of interest in OpenSeas. And yes, you can run OpenSeas from MATLAB within DesignSafe. You can also run it from Jupyter. You can also have TICL files that call other TICL files, as long as they're all in the same directory. We also will have one thing I was going to mention. Charlie showed that MATLAB currently runs on Stampede, the supercomputer. I don't recall if he mentioned that very shortly we will also have a MATLAB version that runs on a virtual machine, and that'll have a quicker spin-up time and will be more of use when you're trying to do kind of just your data exploration. Whereas you can run MATLAB on Stampede, the supercomputing, when you have some massive data analysis jobs. I see some other questions here. I'm just going to roll through this chat and answer the ones I feel like we haven't answered. I know the guys there at TAC are typing away as well. What if you don't have access to box.com? We have plans. That's another thing that will be happening soon. We'll be integrating with Dropbox and Google Drive. And again, the key here is to facilitate upload. I just want to make sure it's clear that we don't actually sync to those accounts. Once you move them over to DesignSafe and work on them in DesignSafe, they don't automatically sync back into box.com. You actually have to move them back. But we are going to support other cloud upload interfaces. I don't know, Charlie, if you're looking at these as well.
You're looking at them as well now.
If anyone's brave enough to unmute themselves, you can also ask your question by voice. I see a question about sharing address. Well, when you're sharing with another user, you can put in their email, their name, and it basically does a search, and then you click on the person that you're trying to share with. What is the criteria for public data? Currently, the public data is only the NIST data that was previously published, but in the future, there will be published data that users of DesignSafe will publish, and that is an active process. The researcher has to publish it and make it public for others to be able to see it outside their project or sharing group. So. I see a question about space limitation. We have some, we're developing an allocation policy now for both SUs on the high performance computing system as well as storage space. I forget those numbers off the top of my head, but they will be integrated soon. I don't know, Tim or Charlie, if you recall at all what those numbers are. I see a good question. Well, they've all been good questions. But what's the relationship between DesignSafe and the Sim Center? So if you're aware that NERI does have a simulation center that was just recently funded and will be officially announced very soon. We're working already very closely with them. The tools and the functionalities that they are developing will be made available through DesignSafe. And so we are certainly partners with respect to that. So we see them as developing new capabilities, perhaps new codes, and we are, making existing codes available, the data sharing available, et cetera. I see a question about plotting tools. In our experience, in my experience with NICE, when we've tried to develop plotting tools that force users to do things differently than they have before, they don't typically want to use them. So in terms of plotting, developing, being able to plot in Jupyter or MATLAB is probably, is really the direction that we're going. People can share Jupyter Notebooks. So if someone writes a script and creates a plot that you want to make, you can just, copy and paste and create your own Jupyter Notebook to do that same type of plot. So we want to give you the flexibility to do what you want to do. We do have some other visualization codes that are a little bit more high-end, such as ParaView, but that would be overkill for XY plot. Oh, and I see a question about the rapid reconnaissance portal. The rapid reconnaissance side of things was just recently awarded in the last few weeks to the University of Washington. Again, we're working closely with them, trying to outline the development plan. Again, we'll be working together. We envision a geospatial interface with that data, because reconnaissance data after natural hazards or just the reconnaissance, or that data is just so geospatially oriented. So we don't have a specific timeline yet, but we're starting to meet with them regularly to outline that soon. So.
I should mention, Ellen, that I did type it in the chat box, but in case anybody missed it, the next two webinars, the next webinar being Jupyter and Python, and then the webinar after that, the Jupyter and R, we will be covering plotting data, loading data, plotting data, and sharing data in those two webinars.
That's a great point, and I really want to encourage everyone to take a look at Jupyter. I'm really excited to have an open source tool like that people can use to share scripts that do analysis. It could really be the electronic notebook for your data, where people can view data very quickly without having to download it. They could open up the Jupyter Notebook, pick a sensor, and start plotting. And we have people on our team that are exploring and develop these applications, developing examples, and we'll be publishing short these kind of use case stories on the website, so that people can become familiar with them and hopefully build off of them. But ultimately, DesignSafe we're building it, but we want you to help us enhance it. And so if you have things that you would like to see, please submit a ticket, send me an email. We want to enable the research that you want to do. So if there's something you absolutely need to do, we can help you with that. We also have the kind of extended collaborative support services. And so if you need some kind of in-depth assistance in trying to do the research that that you should be doing, or do it faster, do it better, again, submit a ticket, and the Texas Advanced Computing Center here, TAC, has a lot of great people that can help you get your research done. So if you want that type of deep interaction, please feel free to contact us. Charlie, I need to go to class, and everyone, so I'm gonna sign off, and I'll let you guys finish up if there's any last-minute questions. But thank you again for everyone attending, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks.
Hey, thank you very much, Ellen. Are there any more questions? Okay, there is the capability of sending questions to training@DesignSafe-CI.org. If you email us that, we'll be able to get any questions after this discussion board closes. I wish to thank everybody for coming and taking your time and learning a little bit about DesignSafe and learning how all the different aspects of it work together and how we can end up collaborating a little bit better in the future. All right, and thanks to the moderators for answering the questions on the chat boards. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Matt. All right. And the chat channel will be open for another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll be closing things down. Look forward to hearing from you and look forward to seeing you guys at the next webinar. Thank you very much.